working properly, so that in a demanding market where there are a lot of new competitors coming into the field, his company is able to begin to either maintain its position but hopefully to flourish. His own performance is beginning to collapse in the face of the kind of pressures that he's under, and it's evident from working with him that he's drawing on all sorts of previous experiences of authority to guide him about how to engage with and work with the various other employees and staff members, managers actually, whose work he has to coordinate. One of the issues is that for all sorts of reasons which we can talk about later, he's been frightened of being resented by the people who report to him and seen as an interfering and authoritarian figure. So he's playing softly with the people who report to him. As a result, deadlines have been missed, and silo mentalities between the different parts of the organization, which really ought to be interacting and working with each other effectively, have been built up and have been reinforced. And what I've had to do in working with him has been to try and understand what are the kind of presuppositions and assumptions and previous experiences that he's had affect how these are affecting the way in which he's working in his organization. And in order to understand what I'm doing and how I'm thinking, what I'd like to do is to explore a process of sort of human and social development which will help us to understand what the reasons for certain kinds of cultural gridlock which need to be dealt with. These go right back to our earliest experiences as very small children and infants. What is being demonstrated increasingly in a range of different research is that there is a natural sense of connectedness which begins extremely early in a human person's life. There's obviously the connection between the infant, the newborn, and the mother. That's been absolutely extensively studied, and of course how that extends to the father and so on. But what's increasingly becoming clear is that even children who are not related to each other, aged 9 months or so, when they're in a particular stage of a particular situation, they are actually aware of their other companions around them, and they are in emotional connection with them. And increasingly the research is showing how powerful and how deep-seated this is, and how if one child begins to be unhappy and whimper and cry, another child, without any of the same evidence, will in fact begin to weep and cry just the same as if a child is smiling and happy. The same thing happens. So they're beginning to be aware of the human context, the connectedness which they're involved with one another from very early on. They may not be able to conceptualize it, but there's a sense of it growing inside themselves. So as they grow up, they begin to be able to be more conscious of the connectedness taking place, not just sort of randomly, but within a kind of shaped setting. A skin is formed, a boundary around them, and they begin to have a sense of the organization, the system of which they're a part, with its different participants. And at the heart of this is what is beginning to emerge, is a sense of belonging together, a sense of belonging which is held within a sense of being together, but containing a range of differences. And here in this little illustration we have people of different genders and people of different ages together, learning what it is to be taking a role in a family. They don't conceptualize it like that, but that's what they're doing. And what they're doing is actually something which is comprehensible. They actually understand it in their guts, which, because it's comprehensible, enables them to get in touch with sort of deeper recesses of their minds and their feelings and their thoughts, so that they're actually able to make sense of the experience. They begin to see a pattern of behavior and connectedness which makes sense to them, in which they're able to go on with their own personal individual development, but they're doing it in a way where they have a sense that their behavior impacts on other people around them. It is, they move to a different kind of situation, and in a way this picture here illustrates what goes on at a sense of learning about being part of an organization or an institution takes place as they go to school. There was that coziness in that previous picture, which has now been extended and may in fact be lost, put at risk certainly. For example, the cozy family, the little quartet. Now we've got many other young people and also their teachers and classroom assistants and other kinds of supporters. There's a sense in which they're being drawn here, and certainly in my experience in many different countries, they're beginning to have to wear uniform so as to show that they belong together by the way in which they dress. They're beginning to be part of something which is not only bigger, but is more formally structured. So questions, new questions about how to belong begin to surface. More demanding questions, more challenging at an emotional level. You know, you can have a child aged, say, 5, who is absolutely bemused by what he or she is experiencing. They can't see how to begin to engage with these other people, these other little persons around them, in a way that makes sense. And so they begin to wrestle with the problem about, do I really belong here? And as they are exploring these questions to do with belonging and learning to work together under the supervision and leadership of their class teacher and other adults, they're beginning to experience issues to do with authority and power, laying down presuppositions, assumptions, and so on, built on their experience, which they will be drawing on as they go further. Having that rather grey, forbidding institution, school, behind them, in a way of symbolizing how hard it is for the sensitivity, the human sensing capacity, which is exhibited in the group of children in the front. They're cheerful, they're waving to the camera, etc. But behind them is an institution. The thing is, they're learning to belong to this apparently rather harsh, edgy, angular thing. And part of their learning, which is going to be very important in the future, is what they make of this thing which stands behind them, this organization. The simple thing is, it's transmitted to them through their teachers and through the head teacher of their school. But if we move on to of experience, the complexity which the children experienced as they went into the primary school and their first school experience, when they get to the age of about 14 or 15, the levels of complexity are massively increased. And here we have an example of a class in an inner city school, and you can begin to see the range of differences which are now being surfaced and have got to be worked with. You can see in this picture children of different ethnic origins, different genders. You can see that there is an adult there, probably a teaching assistant, whose job is to support children with learning difficulties. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's clearly a girl who is a Muslim with a whole body of beliefs and values that will affect the way she thinks about herself and the way she thinks about engaging with other people.